All right, excellent. It's 5:30. Um, quick check, Patrick, Keenan, or Ian, how do we look? Sound, everything looks good on the for the presentation wise. Screen sharing looks like it's working. Awesome. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much. Mm. Alrighty. Sorry about that. YouTube was repeating what I was saying to me, so. Okay, now we can get started. Again, everybody, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us in this first call. And the title of this call is Community Workshop. I really want to call out the community part. So my name is Gendreau, and I am part of the Chainlink community. I don't work for smart contracts. I'd love to, but I'm just an enthusiast, and with that, able to kind of organize this. The smart contract team is very supporting of the community, as you guys, I'm sure you've seen, and they've allowed me to use their platform in a way, kind of retweeting my tweet to help promote this. So big thanks, and a really big shout out to Patrick Collins and Ian Reed. So actually, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. Patrick, would you like to introduce yourself? Make sure you can unmute yourself.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm Patrick. I'm working on the Chainlink project now. Previously, I was at a company, Alpha Vantage, and that's actually how I got involved. Alpha Vantage is a data vendor, and we're spinning up, and we ended up, connecting with Chainlink, spinning up a Chainlink node to port the data through, and yeah, the rest is history. And now I'm super deep in space. Yeah, it's been a blast so far, and I just keep enjoying learning more and more. And I'm very technical, and yeah, I run a node, and it's been a blast to learn and interface with the community. And yeah.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah, Ian Reed. I think my official title is Business Development Lead at Linkpool. We're a small team, so end up doing a few more things, probably more related to this call, is that I manage the day-to-day operations for the nodes that use the Linkpool infrastructure. Right now, I think we've got somewhere between 12 and 15 nodes that we operate. But I also work on the business side as well, and support Johnny and Matt in everything that they do. And yeah, I joined the team, I guess formally towards the end of last year. I started working with them, at the beginning of last year. Excited to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. All right. So again, guys, kind of what I was saying again is that this is a community call. And I think it speaks volumes that both Patrick and Ian, I just reached out to them and they were both way willing to join and share. And I'm with you guys. I'm still learning, and I'm learning every day. So it's really awesome that we can get some of these people that are really the kind of the top in their field to share with us. And that's the goal. So we're going to continue to run these community calls, and we're going to spotlight people in the community, whether it's people working for some of the partners, or if it's people in the community that just contribute and create. We'll kind of highlight some of the things even in this, but it's really these calls are going to be about the community. And so please, if you have any interest in our ideas or feedback, please reach out. As you can see on the screen, there's my Twitter handle, but also, pretty much find me anywhere else as well. So without further ado, we'll jump right in. So a quick overview of what we're going to be learning today. We're going to first take a look at the smart contract connectivity problem. It's crucial to understand this, to then understand how we can kind of how that problem is solved, and in that, one solution is to be running a Chainlink node. We're going to take a look at the ecosystem that's being built around Chainlink. A quick slide, some resources to help you. Hopefully this gets you very excited, and you can go from there and keep learning. Again, we're going to have a lot of calls, so we're going to learn together. But there's so many resources out there. So here's just a few to get started as well. And we're going to end it with a fun challenge. So pay attention. Some of the questions in here may be in the challenge. And the winner will get some official Chainlink gear, which is pretty cool. So let's dive right in here. So to understand the smart contract connectivity problem, we kind of got to break it down and first look at the fundamentals. So what is distributed ledger technology? What has it generally been used for? And we're going to talk about external data. So what is DLT, or distributed ledger technology? It's also called a shared ledger, is a consensus of replicated, shared, and synchronized digital data geographically spread across multiple sites, countries, or institutions. So we're going to kind of visualize that. First, we're going to take a look at a centralized ledger. Here is an example. This is representing our ledger, and there will be data on this ledger. I've highlighted this ledger in gold because it's the golden copy. Whatever this ledger says is what the ledger says. And this ledger is going to be maintained by some, kind of like the previous definition, it said a person, country, or entity. Some entity is going to be responsible for maintaining that ledger. It may be a corporation or a company such as Wells Fargo. It may be an individual. But we know that this ledger, this information, is being maintained by one person party. So for this example, we're going to take a look, and this ledger right now is holding data, and it's just a simple blue number 1. And we're going to, kind of walk through an example of what if a malicious actor was to come to this person, and whether they hack into them or maybe they bribe them, but in some way, the malicious actor turned this value to 2. That's the end of the story. The value on the ledger is now 2. So let's take a look now at, another point of failure is, again, maybe it's not a malicious actor that's changing the data, but perhaps, Wells Fargo has an outage, and now all of a sudden, not only is the ledger incorrect, but it's actually not available at all. So a solution to these problems is using a decentralized ledger. So here we can see our ledgers around this, outside of this infographic, are maintained by separate, or I shouldn't necessarily say separate, but maintained by individual entities or parties. And these aren't the golden copies. However, here in the middle is our golden copy, and that's derived, again, from the definition, as we kind of discussed. It's the consensus of those distributed ledgers. And so what's really powerful about this is, let's say here our malicious actor, starting to cause some trouble, changes the value to number 2. Well, he's only affected 1 out of 5 nodes, or sorry, 1 out of 6 nodes. So since we still have a majority is saying that the value is blue 1, we can see here on our golden copy, our ledger is still a 1. Something to, in that same breath, right? If a malicious actor had enough power to take over at least 51% of those participants, well, then they can change that value. So in that being said, the more participants in your distributed ledger, in a sense, it becomes more secure or more highly available. So again, as we were talking about, this ledger here in the middle is the golden copy, and it's kind of it's made up of these ledgers that are syncing and forming a consensus. And the 2 most beneficial things that we get from this are security, in that it's tamper-proof. Again, if that malicious actor comes and change this value, well, the majority still have the correct value, and that malicious actor would have to have a lot of power and really take over 51% of that decentralized network. The other part of that is highly available. So again, as we saw the power outage in the single ledger example, sorry, I have this slide misplaced, so we'll actually see it a little bit later in the slide. But if one of these was to have a power outage, again, we still have 5 out of 6, and we're still keeping a copy. So now that we understand distributed ledger technology, let's take a look at that ledger. Again, here's that ledger, and we know that it has these properties of being highly available and highly secure. typically what these ledgers have been used for is storing of tokens. So here's an example. And again, this is simplified, but this is a token that we're probably all familiar with. And in this ledger, we have account, a unique account, an address, and the amount of tokens that that address holds. Again, this ledger is very powerful because it's decentralized. So this is that ledger that's being maintained by all of these people. And so here in our middle is our copy that has these great properties. It's tamper-proof and it's highly available. Again, if one of our participants has a power outage, we still have our ledger. So that's a great great benefit of decentralized ledger technology. So what if we were to take this ledger and instead of keeping track of an address and its number of tokens, oh, I'm sorry, before we get there, let's look at this. So we know that account number 1 has 3 Bitcoin. Now we know that account number 779 has 0 Bitcoin, tokens. This is all information that's on the ledger. We're looking at the ledger right now. So we know that account number 1 has 3 and we know that 779 has 0. So with that said, we can actually move tokens around on the blockchain. And that's what we do quite a bit. And it may not even be a token, but it could be a CryptoKitty or some kind of asset that's already on the ledger. To call that out, it only knows what's currently on its own ledger. It doesn't know what FedEx is currently saying for the tracking of a certain package. It doesn't know what Coinbase is saying for some exchange rate. And it doesn't even know what time it is. The blockchain is simply a stateful ledger. So what if we were to take this ledger and instead of keeping track of unique accounts and the amount of tokens they hold, what if we instead use the ledger to store code? Again, the benefits of this now are that where your code is stored, it's tamper-proof and it's highly available. And we get these properties because it's on a decentralized ledger. And now you might be thinking, okay, well now, so previously you might have thought, well, why does this ledger, just keeping track of tokens, care about the status of the FedEx package or care about the exchange rate or care about the time? Now, if we get to the point where we're storing code on this ledger, well, now it would actually be very beneficial if perhaps we could have access to this data. If X, then Y, if package is delivered, then perform a payment, or if the temperature did not exceed a certain temperature. However, remember this big red bar, the ledger only knows what's currently on the ledger. Here in the middle of this screen are 3 examples of decentralized ledger technology. We have Ethereum, which is a public blockchain, Bitcoin, and Hyperledger. Again, there's all of this great external data that the ledgers do not have access to. So how do we solve this problem? And the answer is an oracle. So what we're looking at here is an oracle that's fetching that data and feeding it to our decentralized ledger technology. It's here referenced as decentralized computation. Again, that's the same thing as decentralized ledger technology. This smart contract, the code hosted on this blockchain is highly available and highly secure. However, looking at this, you can potentially spot the issue. We're now getting the great benefits of having a highly available and highly secure network to host our logic. However, the data that's being injected into that logic, the if X then Y, is coming from a centralized service, a centralized oracle. And if this oracle goes down, well, now our contract doesn't have that external data, and defeats the purpose of hosting your code in the first place on a decentralized ledger. So the solution to this is to use a decentralized oracle network, and this is what Chainlink provides. So in this instance, we can see this decentralized computation. This is where your code would live. So if X, then Y, and these oracles are all going to check if X. And in this case, even if one of our oracles goes down, it's all right because we still have available oracles. Now this example, there's just 3, but it's really open to the smart contract operator on how many oracles do you want to call, and a lot more going into how you would select oracles. This is kind of in real world practice what we were discussing. So each circle around this ring here is a independent node operator, and they are writing the current, in this case, Ethereum to the USD exchange rate. And these answers are being written on chain, and there's an on-chain aggregation occurring. And so now we have this value here, $196 on chain, because these oracles have been writing it on chain. And the benefit is we didn't use a centralized oracle. In fact, we can see that we received this as an aggregate of, in this case, 21 different oracles. So we're getting that decentralization here quite a bit. So we've discussed the smart contract connectivity problem. We understand the benefits of distributed ledger technology and the importance of external data. And really the limiting factor, really all we've been able to do today is move tokens that are already on the ledger itself. And now we'll get into the fun stuff while you guys are all here. And that is, how can I help solve this problem and provide value to the whole this ecosystem that is primed to explode. Generally blockchain and distributed ledger technology, again, has been very limited to tokenization. And now we're going to be able to take logic that we can trust, that all parties can trust. And the most important part is now we're going to be able to feed data into that logic, and we can trust the data, because the data is not coming from a centralized source. It's coming from either multiple parties or somebody that has audibility and all kinds of layers that can go into selecting how many oracles will provide your data. So now we're going to, again, dive into the fun part, and that's running a Chainlink node. So we're going to kind of break this down into a few sections. We're going to discuss what a container is, because that's vitally important to how you would like to operate your node. We're going to discuss actually an Ethereum node. We'll talk about the infrastructure in which you host your equipment and some best practices. So I'll grab this, and we're going to kind of go over this quickly. Essentially, a container is a shift in how applications are deployed. And as you can see, if anybody's familiar with kind of being a sysadmin, historically you'd have your infrastructure, you have your hardware, and you would install a hypervisor such as Hyper-V or VMware. You would then have to install a full guest operating system, whether it's Linux or Windows. We all know how big Windows is. Then you would install your application on top of that guest operating system. And you can see each one of these represent a virtual machine because you've got a unique operating system, which is quite a bit of overhead. It's slow. If I needed to redeploy my application, I have to redeploy entire OS and I have to install my application. On the left-hand side, we can look at containerized applications. So we have our hardware, our operating system, and then a Docker kernel. So essentially this kernel can be shared by all of these different containers. However, there's security between these containers, but it greatly reduced our overhead without having to install an operating system per application that we want to install, and having a kernel here, a kernel here, and a kernel here. So it's a big reduction in the overhead. It's also much more efficient in your ability to deploy applications quickly. So I just like to call out containers, and that it's something that's definitely crucial in deploying your node. So in a container, there's something called a container image, and that's going to be a read-only file that is basically the blueprint of what a container will be. So a container is the running instance of that container image. Again, the image is the read-only file, and the container is the running instance. And so now let's say we want to change something about our container. We're not going to touch that container. We're going to change the container, we're going to change the Docker image and redeploy a new container. A lot of people, sysadmins historically, have kind of like babied their servers. We don't do that. We treat them like cattle. I hate to say it, slaughter them, redeploy them. And again, so it's a read-only file, so we don't modify our containers. We change our Docker image and we redeploy, and that has to go. You'll see Patrick can speak to that, I'm sure, better than I can on why you're having to update your Docker image potentially, and how you would maybe some best practices on doing that. A container is really like I was saying, it's you spin it up and you don't baby it, you throw it away and you spin up a new one. So with that being said, when that container gets thrown away, all of its storage also gets thrown away. And so you'll need to rely on a remote database. In this, so a PostgreSQL is the recommended database to use for security and performance reasons. And we'll dive into Ethereum node. Actually, Patrick, would you like to take it? And just let me know when to proceed on the slide. I know you haven't really seen the slides.
Yeah, sure.
So,
No worries. Can you hear me all right?
We can, thanks.
All right, cool. Yeah, just to kind of keep going with what Cole was saying, whenever you run a Chainlink node on the Ethereum platform, you need to basically sync up your Chainlink node with Ethereum. There's a lot of reasons for this. The main reason basically is that the way that the Chainlink node works actually, whenever somebody puts a request out that says, hey, I'm looking to get off-chain data, what actually happens is all these Chainlink nodes are reading the Ethereum chain. They're looking for these requests for off-chain data. And so they need to be synced up at all times, right? So they need to be reading, that's basically how they communicate. So you need to be synced up to an Ethereum node. And you can do this as Cole has written here. Oh, well, can you go back real quick?
Yep, absolutely.
You can do this as Cole has written here. You can either run your own Ethereum node, which is actually recommended because it increases the decentrality of Ethereum in general, and it's also cheaper. Or you can use like a third-party connection. There are services like Fuse. I think actually Linkpool even has one, or Infura to connect, and those services are provided. But yeah, you can go to next now.
Awesome. And sorry, actually, I'm going to jump right back in really quick, guys. I want to call out that it's the Chainlink node is very lightweight and is very cheap to run if you're going to maybe not run it on your own computer for certain reasons, but run it in the cloud for the benefits of having high availability and things like that. The Ethereum node, however, is going to be very big and heavy. So if you're going to put it into the cloud, it's going to be very expensive. So if you're going to self-host it, well, now how are you going to make sure that your Ethereum node is highly available? Are you going to have redundant internet connection or redundant power? And so maybe you look into a data center to host Ethereum node. So just to call that out, the Ethereum node is heavy and will take some consideration for hosting it.
I would just add one more thing there too. I know it's not my turn to talk, but the communication between the Chainlink node and the Ethereum node, the performance there is important. Perhaps less so today, but increasingly, you really need to make sure you've got a good connection there, so you're quick to respond and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely a real consideration. What kind of service you're going to use, or like Cole said, run your own.
That's great advice or great insight. And please jump in whenever. I know you guys actually haven't really seen too many of the slides, so if there's anything to add, that's we're so happy to have you here and really appreciate that. So for that example. Do you want to speak to the failover proxy, Patrick? Looks like he's on me. I'll grab it real quick, guys. There is a really cool proxy that's been built. I'm actually, to be honest, I'm not sure who built it. I see here in the notes on the GitHub, it does say that it's still in development, but this is something that's very cool. So let's say you were using your own self-hosted Ethereum node, and you are worried that it's going to have a power outage or an internet outage. You could then fail over to an Ethereum node as a service. So, and it's actually a best practice. It's highly recommended. It looks like Patrick to use that failover service.
Got it.
Cool.
Yeah.
If you could just unmute Patrick there again, I think he's.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
he just did. I didn't realize if I remuted myself, I could then not unmute myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got it, Cole. So
cool. Do you guys want to speak at all to a kind of self-hosted versus cloud?
Yeah. So, and then actually just just to touch on the Ethereum node bit again, I don't even think you're allowed to host an Ethereum node in the cloud, but maybe that's a little bit in the weeds. Chainlink nodes, on the other hand, you can. So you can do a self-hosted one, you can do one in the cloud, as it says here. Doing it in the cloud is really easy to spin up. And as if any of you are familiar with like DevOps, a lot of running a Chainlink node is actually just being really familiar with DevOps, being really familiar with infrastructure, and how deployments work and how everything works kind of on the back end, which is actually a lot different than being like a front end or a back end like full stack developer. It's very, very in the weeds of the infrastructure. But yeah, you can run it self-hosted or on the cloud. Obviously, if you're going to run something self-hosted, you're going to want to make sure you follow a lot of the best practices, so that you never have an outage.
Awesome. Thanks, Patrick. All right. And actually kind of speaking to, I was going to say exactly kind of what you're going to.
Yeah.
Please take the best practices, please.
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot of best practices, and they're best practices, but they're basically necessities, because if, especially right now where, the system is still so new and the technology is still so new, we want to make sure that stuff's good and stuff works, right? If your node goes down, or you don't have parameters in place to catch errors or stop hackers from coming in, then it's going to look really bad on you. It's going to really look bad on the technology, and consequences are going to happen. And it's going to be more than just you looking bad. It's also going to be people's contracts are going to be affected. Luckily, again, because of the decentrality of the network, if a couple people don't follow these best practices, then their nodes will just kind of suck basically, and will fall out of favor, and other people will just use other nodes because your nodes will have poor reputation and will be known to be bad. So yeah, so some of the best practices for running a node, you definitely want to restrict access. You don't want to, there's a lot of like ports and stuff that can be open, that you want to close, and restrict your access to make sure that only you or only your team can connect. Failover capabilities, I mean, these are kind of just crucial pieces for any system. You always want to have backups, backup everything. So a backup virtual machine, if you're using virtual machine, backup database, backup Docker containers. You want to make sure that pretty much anytime something breaks, it's okay because you have a backup. And somebody, you might be thinking, okay, well, it's a decentralized network. There are hundreds, there will eventually be so many nodes. Like, who cares if one goes down? Well, again, if everyone's node's up and your node is the one that's failing, then, well, your node's not going to get any more traffic.
Awesome. And as Patrick had spoke about, there's many ports. So for example, is the operator UI, the operator user interface. And this actually specifically calls out that the operator UI port does not need to be open on the internet for it to correctly function. In fact, you definitely wouldn't want to expose your node operators in the user interface to the wide internet.
Yeah, and I'll keep going with disaster recovery. Sometimes disasters happen. Sometimes things happen, and you need to have systems in place to fix it, right? Because again, like, your node goes down, or something breaks, you should pretty much be on red alert, right? You don't want to have downtime. You want to stay up as long as possible. We actually saw some disaster recovery on Black Thursday, if any of you remember it. All the node operators, when ETH price or gas prices were skyrocketing and the network was super congested, we pretty much all had to get on for hours, and we're just, fumbling through the transactions, trying to fix our nodes and try to figure things out. And this goes right into active monitoring. I mean, I get that day on Black Thursday in particular, my phone was blowing up because I was just getting constantly pinged saying, hey, there's something wrong, which was good because it woke me up, so I could jump on and fix it. So having really robust monitoring systems so that, You know, I can have this call right now, for example, and not have to worry because I know, like, if something breaks, I'm going to get pinged, right? I know that it's going well. So having a really solid monitoring system is pretty much essential. Like, if you don't have one, you're not going to, something wrong probably will happen, and you won't be there to fix it, and you need to be. I'm just kind of reading this slide here.
I want to call out really quickly, guys. So one thing, for instance, like we really wanted to do this introductory, or at least I wanted to do this introductory workshop on understanding, here are kind of what you need, here are best practices, not necessarily a walkthrough on here's setting up a node on AWS and here's using this monitoring tool, because you can set up your node on any platform. There's no correct answer, and you can use any monitoring tool. So we want to kind of just discuss at a high level, this is what your objectives are. And going forwards, I'm sure node operators in the community, and as we'll see in the resources, there's even an Ask a Node Operator Discord group. But I'm sure, Patrick would be happy to share maybe what monitoring tools he uses, and that would be a great workshop that maybe we schedule in the future, is specifically just diving in on node monitoring. So
yeah, that would definitely be an in-depth one. But yeah, so some other best practices, they're frequent updates. I mean, the Chainlink is an open source project. It's constantly being updated, and there's a reason that they make updates, is to make your nodes better. So you pretty much always want to be upgrading. That's usually pretty quick. Infrastructure as code. Oh yeah, and yeah, if you use an infrastructure tool like Kubernetes or Terraform, that can make handling all this DevOps work that you need to do a lot easier.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you very much, Patrick, for that insight. We're going to move on now to the Chainlink ecosystem. And I wanted to highlight two different sites that have been in the process of being built for a long time, and I shouldn't even say in the process, but have been around, but they're actively being developed every day and continually improving. The first one I'm calling out is Reputation.link, and this is a platform that looks on chain. Again, because all of our Oracle contracts are on chain, we can anybody, due to the transparency of the blockchain, anybody can go and audit those Oracle requests. So they can see that some smart contract made a request to your on-chain Oracle contract. How long did it take for your off-chain or your Chainlink node to actually respond and fulfill with that request? And so it's probably a little bit too small to see here, but you can see average response time, things like that. Definitely recommend checking it out, kind of poking around. It's a really cool project. Again, as we were kind of speaking to before, there's multiple layers. I didn't want to get into it too much because you could go on and on, but multiple layers in how you select the Chainlink nodes that will compromise your Oracle. And just one of those may be reputation, that's built on, for this instance, example is average response time, or how many jobs it's completed historically. So Reputation.link is kind of the manifestation or a building of a reputation platform that will be used for smart contract developers or anybody that's selecting their oracles to see information. And my personal favorite, just to say, Market.link. And I will let Ian speak to Market.link and take it from here.
Thanks, Cole. Yeah, so we created Market.link. Geez, I don't even know how long ago it was now. It's been around for a number of months now. And we created it really as a place for the different participants in the network to be able to, list and advertise the products that they're making available in an open marketplace. It's totally open. Anyone can list their node here. Data providers can make their data sources available. People that create adapters can list those adapters here as well. Here's a representation Cole's got up now of what the link pool node looks like on here. And really this is it's a search engine for people to be able to come and discover different parts of the Chainlink network. It's also a bit of a window into what's happening in the network right now. with the Reputation.link there, it's a fantastic tool for comparing different nodes and also a window into the network for sure. We think that there's some of that happens at Market.link as well. I think I'm not even sure how many nodes we have on there. I think over 130 that have been listed there now, including most of the officially reviewed nodes, and also a whole bunch of nodes on testnet. And I think that that's really important. The stage that we're in the network right now, we're still in the early days, right? And everyone should be testing on testnet. And part of that testing, I think that is important is integrating your testnet node with the different services that are available in the network, whether that's listing it on Reputation.link or Market.link. We've got full testnet support on all the different testnets. It's really just a place for people to come and search and discover and learn. I think one of the things that we're most looking forward to is in the future, once we've got all this information here, and we look to the future where service agreements are in place and that sort of thing, we really hope that the market will be a discovery tool for people to be able to create service agreements. They'll be able to come here and find the different data sources that already exist in the network, find the nodes that support those, measure compare the different pricing that the node operators have set for those specific jobs. And people will be able to come here and find everything that they need to be able to create a service agreement, launch it, and get going, create a quorum of nodes. And that's really, the longer term vision. And we're building lots of tooling around that to kind of give context to it. So we recently wrote an article about how we'll be including some analytics into here. We've begun to roll some of that out now on the screen that's up right now. This is a list of the different feeds that are live right now that Linkpool node is supporting. We also just have a big list of feeds. And so in the background, we've got a whole bunch of great backend tools that are monitoring the network in a slightly different fashion than the SDL guys are using for Reputation.link. And really the goal there is just to kind of give some context to the information that's already available on the market. So you see things like different feeds that a node is subscribed to or participating in. But soon I think, we'll be able to show things like response time and, prices over history and that kind of stuff as well. So we're really excited to move those backend tools into the forefront and sort of create some visualizations and that sort of thing to, just increasingly give people context so they can make educated decisions on, when an end user comes to the market, they've got all the information that they need to be able to select the right nodes and data sources and all that kind of stuff. So, it's still early days for the market, but we've seen a lot of good traction so far, and we're really looking forward to, evolving with the network and supporting that, as those different changes come.
Awesome.
It's interesting seeing Reputation.link in this list. I think you could make a pretty big list here now for different third parties, which is what Linkpool is. You have great teams like the Fuse team, which we mentioned in the chat. I think we also mentioned in the audio as well. Fuse provides Ethereum as a service. So if you're running a Chainlink node, they've got very, very generous, minimum plans to be able to subscribe to an Ethereum client so that your node can interact with it. We've got the Honeycomb marketplace, which is a really important part of the network. And, one of the things that we're seeing right now in DeFi is this great opportunity where all these new projects, it's really, really hard to keep up with all the innovation that's happening. that's really about composability, right? And what that means is, you know, there's all these different teams that are building these tools, and they're built in such a way that those tools and features can interact with each other. And I think that what we're going to start to see, and what we are starting to see already, is that's happening just inside the Chainlink ecosystem, right? So when we talk about reputation, you know, we'll be bringing in the SDL Reputation.link reputation scores into the market, right? It's all about that composability where the different third-party teams can work together. And it's really exciting to think about what that's going to look like, because we're seeing a great example of that right now in DeFi, where you know, all these projects are just, you know, coming out so fast, and I think, you know, as we look forward to the future, and you know, great initiatives like the grant program is only going to accelerate that kind of thing. So so it's just really exciting to see, you know, how all these different teams are going to work together to, you know, create this ecosystem, because the Chainlink community and the products that are around it are unique, right? And it really is about that ecosystem. So yeah, we're really excited to be part of that, and you know, work with all the great teams and talented teams. And you know, I would even include Alpha Vantage in that list too. It's great to have like data providers that and all these different people, these different companies that recognize the opportunity and are coming together, and it's going to take that, right? So yeah, absolutely add Alpha Vantage to that list. And yeah, it's just really great to see everyone starting to come together, and you know, the foundation being laid to increase that as well.
Wow, yeah, that's really great. Thanks, Ian. I have actually a couple of notes on that. Guys, before this call, I was kind of chatting with Ian, and I was saying that the marketplace is something that's always been really interesting to me. Toaster, you had asked the question before we started, and you said, how are people going to find my node or my Oracle and select it? And you know, it is those marketplaces. And so when we first saw Market.link develop, it was really exciting. It's the first, and to be honest, they're really the trailblazers. But I'm glad, Ian, that you brought up some of those others. I had mentioned in the call, I said, you know what, maybe from this call will come a competitor to you. And Ian said, good. That's great. So I thought that was really awesome. It's so cool seeing the all of the different members of the ecosystem so openly working together. I'm glad you called out, you know, specifically data providers. I'd love to we can have data providers join some of these community calls and share. I wanted to also mention, Ian, you mentioned that it's really important that people connect their node and run on Ropsten or on any Ethereum testnet for that matter, and really get comfortable and familiar with not just setting up your node, but then update it, and then, you know, perform a disaster recovery drill, something like that. So I wanted to call out, actually, Linkpool has a free Ethereum RPC for Ropsten, so you can start working and testing. Again, as I said before, the Ethereum node is very lightweight and can be very cheap to run on somewhere, and the Ethereum node is heavy. So with Linkpool giving you that opportunity right there, it's a great, you can for very low cost start running a node and practicing. The number of nodes, guys, I'm impressed. I think when I made the question, there was not as many as 130. So it's a spoiler.
Is that right, or is it over?
We'll take your word for it. Either way, it's around that number. So I'll spoil one of the challenge questions. Yeah, again, thank you so much for sharing. That was really interesting. And again, like the marketplace, guys, is so cool to see. And as we see, to hear that the Market.link will be integrating the reputation work from the secure data link team. I mean, that's just awesome. All right, so let's hit this. We've got only a little bit of time, but that's no problem. Here's some quick resources for you. This is actually at the footer of Chain.link. So if you want to actually get these real hyperlinks, just go to the Chain.link website and scroll to the bottom. Telegram, if anybody likes Telegram, there's a few active communities. Chainlink official it's good. There's not a lot of nonsense there. YouTube, there's a lot of great content being produced. Maybe there might be some more from Patrick Collins. Looking forward to that. Discord, hands down, Discord is awesome, especially for anybody interested in becoming a node operator. I took a screenshot of some of the channels in the official Chainlink Discord. So for this group particularly, under technical, there's a full channel on Ethereum clients, external adapters, and node operators. We didn't really even get into external adapters in this call. An external adapter is if you had an API or something that required maybe a username and a password, you'd have to first create an external adapter. So that kind of really, a node operator may need to have knowledge of building external adapter, although your node by default is going to have certain jobs already pre-configured. So another one, which this channel I believe is new, is the Ask a Node Operator channel, which that's pretty awesome. And even without this channel, guys, again, I kind of referenced earlier, the community is so open. You can generally message most everybody and they're friendly, which is awesome. So, I mean, that's why Patrick and Ian have joined us tonight, just reached out and they were really friendly and were willing to join. I'm going to send this out. Maybe I'll tweet it on the Chainlink community Twitter. This is a one-pager PDF that was made by the community. It's a Twitter account that actually is no longer active, so it's a little bit out of date, but it's pretty cool. The text is really small, so you won't be able to see it, but it's got a really kind of almost an overview of what we just discussed. It kind of goes into pros and cons of running on your own equipment as opposed to cloud and all kinds of cool stuff. So I'll share this out with the maybe on the Twitter if anybody's interested. And let's jump into the challenge. So if you'd like to participate, again, the winner will get some official Chainlink gear. You're going to need your cell phone or your computer. Actually, I take that back. Your computer will work as well. But you're going to go to a website that's called Kahoot.it. So that's KAHOOT.it. And you'll see that URL once I start this game here in a second as well. Lobby music. Let's turn this off if I can. Nope, we're gonna get some music. It's all right. All right, guys. So again, you're gonna go to Kahoot.it. And you're going to enter in this number to participate. And I will wait until, what do we say, like 6:18:40. So 1 minute from now, exactly 1 minute.
What number is this?
549775.
Okay, cool.
We can't see the game, just the Bing web browser. Is that for everybody?
Yeah.
Sounds like it. All right. Okay, let me reshare the screen. I think it's just sharing like a different window or something. Stop share. There we go. Hopefully that's better. Holy cow, we've got a good amount of people. Awesome. Keenan, are you there? Oh, I gotta unmute me maybe. Yeah. Getting the hang of this, guys. First call. Promise it's gonna get better.
Hello.
Hey, Keenan. So look how many people we've got. Want to get permission by you first? Can we up the prizes maybe to first, second, and third? Not just one swag or Chainlink gear winner this week, but we'll maybe do 3.
Yeah, for sure. And again,
Welcome,
thanks
guys.
everyone for coming, and really, really appreciate Patrick and Ian for taking the time for joining us this evening. Really appreciate it and very grateful for your time.
All righty, guys. I'll do a countdown. The final seconds to get in. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Oh man, somebody did just sneak in there. All righty. All right, what is the difference between a Docker image and a container? All right. All right, close between first, second, and third. True or false? Chainlink nodes must only be hosted on Google Cloud Platform. Got about 5 seconds. All right, awesome. Yeah, Chainlink nodes definitely do not need to be hosted on only GCP. Again, you can host it on different cloud platforms as well as self-hosted, whether it's your home PC or a server in a data center. Noble Duck keeping the lead. I think Classy Pony was in second as well still. So Chainlink nodes must also be connected to an Ethereum client. All right, yeah, that is true, as I believe it was Patrick referred to on how that actual interaction occurs with the Oracle on-chain request. So a Chainlink node must also have a connection to an Ethereum client, whether it's that node operator is hosting it themselves or they're utilizing Ethereum node as a service. Ooh, Classy Pony fell, and Noble Duck holding the lead. True or false? It is recommended that Chainlink nodes should use a MySQL database. All right, that's kind of a trick question, guys. It is false. A remote database is recommended, but not a MySQL database. Noble Duck staying strong. Close, super close. Looks like first, second, and third are all very close. True or false? It is recommended that a Chainlink node should use a PostgreSQL database. Cool. Yep, that was true. All right, a couple more questions. Wow, eight players just hit a answer streak. Nice. Noble Duck holding it heavy. 6 of 9. What is Ropsten? I don't know if we directly covered this, so good luck. All right, awesome. Yes, it's one of the Ethereum testnets. Oh no, the comeback. Alrighty, at least we got the okay from Keenan to get first, second, and third Chainlink gear. So, all right, the Chainlink node operator UI port needs to be open on the internet for it to function correctly. Awesome, that is false. It does not need to be open to the internet. Best to have a security rule that really only opens it to your IP address. or don't even open the operator UI port at all, maybe. Okay, looks like we've got still a pretty close, I think, between first, second, and third. Question 8 of 9. How many Chainlink nodes are currently listed on the Market.link marketplace? Guys, answer, it's yellow. Just calling it out there. This is the one I was going to give you. Choose yellow. Yellow, yellow, yellow. Or
Now I need
orange.
to check.
Yeah. All right. And last question. Let's see how the, oh, wow. That's interesting. How did first place drop completely off the table? And now we've got Noble Duck back in first, taking his spot back. Last question of the game, guys. Here we go. How many, oh, okay. How many Chainlink nodes currently support the ETH to USD price feed that's available on feeds.chain.link? That's correct. Yep, it's 21 nodes. It's actually the example we saw earlier in the slides with those 21 nodes. All right, now how you'll kind of prove if you're a winner. Oh, it looks like we can see it here on the podium. Cool. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, even though we can see these, I don't know who is, which nickname. So if you were one of the winners, please take a screenshot on your phone, and that's how you'll send and prove it. All right. Well, awesome, guys. Thank you again for joining. Again, this is our first call of hopefully many, and I really hope that you learned something. If anything, maybe just yeah, I had a good time talking about Chainlink, and future sessions we can certainly get more hands-on or more delve into a specific topic. We wanted to keep this first call really broad, specifically about being the node operator, because like I was saying before, there really is no right or wrong way. And your Chainlink node can be as robust as you would like to make it. And if you make it very robust, well, then market that, make a website for your node and for your Oracle, and definitely stay alert into the ecosystem, and we'll be here to share things with you, new innovations and anything that's new to the ecosystem. Before we leave, I'd like to ask our guests, again, a huge thank you to both Patrick and Ian for joining us today. And I'd like to maybe, if you guys have any words to leave us with, some advice. Ian, if you'd like to start.
Yeah, sure. When it comes to operating a node, first thing I would say is, do everything on testnet and do everything again. I say that for a couple of reasons. First, it's just good practice, and you should go through that. But also, you're apt to get far more help from the community and from the different resources that are available to you when you are on testnet. So when you've got questions, you should have them on testnet, and by the time you hit mainnet, you should have it all figured out. So definitely test on testnet. That's what it's for. It's way cheaper, especially with gas prices the way they are right now. And then the other thing I would say is, being a node operator, there's a bunch of things that are involved with it, right? There's the infrastructure side. What are you actually going to run your node on, and what VPS are you going to use, and that kind of thing. There's the DevOps side of things. So there's the actual, management, and you need some sort of software skills and that sort of thing. But I think a lot of people, my observation so far is that a lot of people think that that's the finish line, and it's not. There's another component to it, and that's the business side. And the business side is really, really important. Running a Chainlink node and is not like being a POS validator for another network. There's a lot of stuff you need to think about. And now's the time to start thinking about that stuff, really. You know, that includes everything from what kind of data you're going to make available. You know, it's a business, right? You got to know what your fixed costs are. How are you going to price your jobs that are available? What's your competition going to be like? How are you going to differentiate from that competition? You know, what kind of marketing or branding are you going to do? That kind of thing. But even then, you know, once the node's up, you're going to need to be monitoring the network. You're going to need to monitor your node, but also the network to find out what are the business changes that are happening on the network? What are the new hot data feeds that are out and that kind of thing? And just like any other business, it's going to be competitive, right? So you need to figure out how you're going to, you know, stand apart from everybody else. And you know, there's financial stuff you got to think about as well. Subscriptions for data feeds and that kind of stuff. Are you going to use subscriptions? Are you going to use a pay-per-use model like Honeycomb makes available? What are the licensing for those subscriptions? How are you going to deal with collateral and penalties? You know, are you going to open your node up to be part of a pool? So lots of business considerations that I think, you know, now's the time to start thinking about those things, and getting your node online is really just the start, right? You need lots of practice to get there, but I encourage everyone to kind of think about the business side of things as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Ian.
Yeah, and then I'll actually just echo that. I think for running a Chainlink node, two of the biggest pieces are going to be, number one, you just be really, really strong with DevOps. Understanding like how the blockchain works, how all the cryptocurrency works is great, but understanding the infrastructure and the DevOps of it is probably equally, if not more important. And then, yeah, literally just to echo what Ian said, it's not the same as running an Ethereum node. It's not the same as running a Bitcoin node. It's not the same as running, you know, a lot of these other nodes that we've seen. A lot of people will say, hey, like I have my node up and running. Now what do I do? And my answer to that is usually, okay, well, you're basically a college grad now. Go find a job. And they're like, oh, well, you know, they only want to find people who have experience. They only want to use nodes that have jobs. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's the same as being a college grad. You know, how do you get experience without experience? And that's kind of where it is now. So it's the networking, it's the finding clients and onboarding, and hopefully, you know, there's something great about your node that differentiates it. And I know we pretty much have no time here, but if you guys want, I can also show doing a quick job through a node, or maybe it's way over time. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, that would be awesome. Anybody in the, yeah.
Do it. Okay.
I was gonna say, well, we're gonna be going over our time, guys. Just maybe Patrick, I don't know, what do you think this will be, 20 minutes or so? As a heads up to anybody?
I was gonna say the 3 minutes actually.
Well.
Yeah, if you wanna enable screen sharing real quick for me.
Depends how good the network's being to you right now.
Yeah, actually, yeah. If Ropsten is not being nice, then it'll be 20 minutes, but hopefully not.
I couldn't figure out how to just give you share permission, so make a new co-host.
Okay, cool. This will stop. I will stop your screen from sharing.
Yep.
Cool. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
All right, cool. So here's just a quick contract that I spun up. It has a lot of annotations because I like annotations. But basically, it has my node's Oracle address, which I found off of Market.link. It has the job ID that I want, and what it's going to do is it's just going to check out this API, which we can even look.
Can I just call out really quick, guys, for anybody that may not know? What we were just looking at is a smart contract, and this smart contract is calling the Chainlink node or the Oracle address.
Yeah, so this is a little bit in the technicals of it, but yeah, so we're calling this. Can I move this? We're calling this API that's going to return the price of Ethereum, in this contract. I've already deployed it, and if you've never used Remix before, this kind of interface is like kind of the simple interface to play around with it. I hit this. I've already funded this contract with Link, which I will need to run it actually. And if I hit this request Ethereum button, MetaMask is going to pop up and say, "Are you sure you would like to do this?" So this is me saying, "Yes, I would like to do this transaction," which is actually going to interact with my Chainlink node and get the price. So we're going to hit confirm, and it's going to open up Etherscan saying, "Hey, this is, we're working on it, and we'll get back to you soon." So if we come over to my node, here's basically the interface. Here's my Ropsten interface, and we can see this is my job runs. Again, it's a test net, so it's kind of sporadically. Sometimes yesterday I had I had a group just like keep pinging me, but today nothing's really happened. Except for when I tested this 2 hours ago. But if we refresh, we should see pretty soon this new, and you can see right here, this new request just came in. It says pending confirmations. We can click check to see what's happening with the run. It looks like it's made the API call, which is this HTTP GET adapter. It's done some of the parsing. It's multiplied. It looks like we can even see this is what it's returning, right? It's going to return $240.61, and we're just waiting for the we're waiting for it to actually be confirmed on chain, right? We're waiting for the confirmation to actually finish. And when I tested this before, it was this was the result, 241.04. So once it finishes on the Ethereum Ropsten chain, we'll actually see it change to 240.61, which it looks like it has actually finished completing, and that's really it. It's as simple as that. So our node was scanning the Ethereum chain. We saw that there's this request came in. Our node took it, proceeded to make the API call off chain, and then proceeded to report it back on chain, which again, is why this whole thing is so powerful, because now we can take this and do whatever we want with it, and we could make a trade, execute some other piece of smart contract. But yeah, that's basically what it looks like. And again, this is like the GUI. And then if I hit refresh, it'll say complete. Yeah, and this is the GUI for like a node operator. It has like your link balance, your ether balance. Well, this is link balance of a different wallet, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do in here, and that's pretty much it.
Very cool. All right, everybody. Well, we're going to go ahead and end this call. Again, please, if you have any interest or any ideas, reach out. I actually really want to call out quickly as well. Toaster Tech. I don't think I've seen you stop smiling. And Adam David Long, he was in the meeting before we had started and was just, he could talk probably forever and I could listen forever. Super passionate. And so, guys, the community is where it's at. I'd love to continue to engage everybody. And if you would like to be a part of any of this, please reach out. And I look forward to doing more calls in the future. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.